Hello, I'm Anjali Kini. In today's session, we will learn about the skill called coping with emotions, which is the ninth in the list of skills defined by the World Health Organization. We will study Plutchik's Wheel of Emotions, the association of emotions to our endocrine system, and the energy centers called chakras. We will learn about techniques such as meditation, pranayama, and asanas that help us cope with emotions. Let me start with the definition of emotion and coping with emotions. Emotions are biological states brought on by thoughts, feelings, behavioral responses, pleasure or displeasure. In the Hindu context, emotions are represented by the 9 rasas. Coping with emotions is about using techniques to understand the patterns of emotions, understanding our responses to emotions, and taking corrective and preventive actions. Let me now hand over to my team members to read out their chapters.
Hello, I am Anil Sirur. I am going to read about the emotion wheel, which was developed in 1980 by Dr. Robert Plutchik, a psychologist and professor. They say the human mind can experience about 34,000 emotions. Plutchik created 8 major categories of emotions that serve as a foundation for all the other emotions. These are joy and sadness, acceptance and disgust, fear and anger, surprise and anticipation. The role of emotions is to help us survive. These are some of the survival behaviors that drive our actions in response to emotions. To protect ourselves, we have withdrawal or retreat as a survival behavior. This is activated by the emotion fear. To destroy the cause of danger, attack is a survival behavior. This is activated by the emotions anger and rage. To explore the environment for foraging and gathering, we have curiosity as our emotion. Klaus Rainer Scherer, professor of psychology, postulated 5 ways in which emotions manifest themselves. The first way is where an individual simply experiences the feelings. The next is where the body identifies the emotion and takes action. For example, pulling your hand away from a hot iron, or accepting the fear but continuing with a public speech. The third is where the individual assesses the root cause of the emotion and takes action. The fourth way is communication of the emotion. We do this through facial expressions, hand gestures, or body movements. The fifth is when our body produces chemical reactions. The rush of blood flow to the hands when one experiences the emotion of anger is an example. These are some steps to cope with emotions. Read the story of someone you admire, eat a healthy snack, drink a glass of water, take a shower, make a gratitude list, let yourself cry, rip paper into small pieces, do something nice for someone you know, volunteer your time, learn something new, paint, draw, write, play a sport, start a garden, go for a walk, meditate, do yoga. Keep a record of what you do to cope. It will help you guide others. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Oscar Wilde. I don't want to be at the mercy of my emotions. I want to use them, to enjoy them, and to dominate them.
Hello, I am Anushree Kini. This article is about hormones, the chakras, and yoga postures. Let me start with hormones. A hormone is a chemical that moves throughout the body to help regulate emotions and behavior. Hormones are secreted by ductless glands directly into the blood. Now, let me talk about the 7 glands and the associated chakras and yoga postures. First, the adrenal gland is associated with Mooladhara chakra. The associated emotions are survival, fear, and insecurity. When this chakra is healthy, we feel stable, confident, independent, and strong. The yoga posture to manage emotions related to this gland is the mountain pose or Tadasana. The reproductive glands are associated with the Swadhisthana chakra. The associated emotions are pleasure, guilt, and sexuality. When this chakra is in balance, we feel positive, satisfied, and intuitive. The yoga posture to manage emotions related to this gland is the triangle pose or the Trikonasana. The pancreas are associated with the Manipur chakra. The associated emotions are control, anger, helplessness, inner worth, will, and personal power. When this chakra is in balance, we feel confident, productive, and focused. The yoga posture to manage emotions related to this gland is the cobra pose or the bhujangasana. The thymus is associated with the anahat chakra. The associated emotions are love and compassion. When this chakra is in balance, we feel compassionate, friendly, and caring. The yoga posture to manage emotions related to this gland is the camel pose or the ushtrasana. The thyroid is associated with the Vishuddha chakra. The associated emotions are communication, trust, and faith. When this chakra is in balance, we communicate positively and listen to others actively. The yoga posture to manage emotions related to this gland is the shoulder stand or the Sarvangasana. The pituitary gland is associated with the Ajna chakra. The associated emotions are foresight, conflict, duality, and intuition. When this chakra is in balance, we feel free of fear or attachment to material things. The yoga posture to manage emotions related to this gland is a child's pose or the balasana. The pineal gland is associated with the Sahasrar chakra. The associated emotions are unity, separation, peace, and tranquility. When this chakra is in balance, we feel enlightened. The yoga posture to manage emotions related to this gland is the headstand or the Shirshasana. There is an amazing meditation practice called the chakra meditation that helps brings all of these chakras in balance. We hope you can practice all these yoga poses and the chakra meditation to master your emotions. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Mavis Mazura. Emotions can get in the way or get you on the way.
Hello, I am Deepali Kini. This article is about what we can learn from radio jockeys about emotions. RJs are a great example of coping with emotions. When they are on the air, their minutest emotional variation is heard and felt by thousands of people listening to them. Listeners could say something nasty to the RJs when they are live on air. They could send rude messages or ask awkward questions. This could trigger anger, loathing, disgust, sadness, even fear or amazement in the RJ's mind. It is a huge challenge to maintain the same level of emotion, the same volume of voice, even the same pace of breathing while coping with all these feelings. At the same time, they need to be aware that they are dealing with the emotions of thousands of listeners, a distraught cab driver, an upset teenager, an anxious mother, and so forth. Their job is to conduct this orchestra of emotions. The RJ can never be late to work, not even by a few seconds. She must get to work before her segment begins. Imagine how stressful this can be. If she has to travel by public transport, navigate through traffic jams, and get her housework completed on time. So, how does the RJ cope with emotions? She follows these rituals before she walks to the mic. Reach the studio early ritual. This ritual gives her time to relax and avoid the stress of reaching late. The RJ's unbreakable rule is to reach the studio on time. Getting to work early gives her time for emotional and physical readiness. Drop the past ritual. The RJ's objective is to make positivity audible from the moment she greets the listeners. She first takes a deep breath, then, with a deliberate effort, she drops all the past baggage and goes into the now. Focus on the purpose ritual. Performing an act of affirmation is the next ritual. It ensures that your body, mind, and soul are in sync with your purpose. The RJ's purpose is to be emotionally connected to the unknown, unseen thousands out there. Put a big smile in the voice and sketch a beautiful memory in listeners' minds. Do these actions apply to our lives? What do you think? Let me end this chapter with a quote from Aldous Huxley. Experience is not what happens to you, it's how you interpret what happens to you.
Hello, I'm Jagdish Kini. Today I want to summarize two TED Talks on coping with emotions. The first talk, The Gift and Power of Emotional Courage, is by Susan David, psychologist, Harvard Medical School. Susan's research work has been her personal journey as a teenager, bottling up her emotions after her father's death. Susan did not display her grief to anyone, and when asked how she was doing, she would shrug and say, "Okay." Susan says, "Being positive has become a new form of moral correctness. It's a tyranny of positivity, and it's cruel." Research on emotional suppression, that the psychologists call amplification, shows that when emotions are pushed aside, they get stronger. We must label our emotions accurately so that we are more able to recognize the precise cause of our feelings. That is when the readiness potential is in our brain and is activated. What is a great way of labeling our emotions? Try not to say "I am," as in "I'm angry" or "I'm sad." When you say "I am," it makes you sound as if you are the emotion. Instead, try saying, "I'm noticing that I'm feeling sad," or "I'm noticing that I'm feeling angry." The next TED talk I want to summarize is Why We All Need to Practice Emotional First Aid by Guy Winch, psychologist and author. Guy says, we all go to the doctor when we have physical pain, so why don't we see a health professional when we feel emotional pain? Guy talks about three pains: loneliness, rejection, and failure. Loneliness creates a deep psychological wound. It distorts our perceptions. It makes us believe that those around us do not care for us. Rejection is equally painful. We start thinking about all our faults and shortcomings. Failure is painful too. If your mind convinces you that you're incapable of something, you will feel helpless. You will stop trying too soon, or you will not try at all. And you will even more be convinced that you cannot succeed. Studies tell us that even a 2-minute distraction is sufficient to break the urge to brood over our emotional pain. You could look at this wonderful advice to deal with emotional pain. I read, I exercise, go out for a walk, go out for a coffee, go for a run to clear my mind. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Mother Teresa. The most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved.
Hello, I'm Pavandeep Singh. Today I want to summarize two books on the topic of coping with emotions. The first book I want to summarize is titled The Book on Human Emotions. The author Tiffany Watt Smith takes us through an amazing journey of 156 emotions. We may have never heard of them before. Here are some examples of such unique emotions. Toska, Russia, means a longing with nothing to long for. Itsuarpok, from Intuit culture, meaning a feeling of anticipation. While waiting for someone to arrive, we intermittently go outside to check for them. This is called Itsuarpok. Awumbak, Papua New Guinea, means a feeling when you say goodbye to the last guest, close the door, and survey your empty home. Schadenfreude, Germany, means enjoying someone's misfortune. Gezelligheid, Dutch, seeing a friend after a long absence. Some of the emotions are not translatable into English with a single word. It requires a conceptual combination. Some of these emotions exist in modern Western culture today, but don't mean the same thing as they did in the past. The Scottish Gaelic Dictionary describes 49 shades of sadness. The Pintupi tribe of Australia have words for 15 kinds of fear. The more emotions you have in your vocabulary, the more emotionally intelligent you will be. The second book I want to summarize is Emotional Intelligence 2.0. The author says that emotional quotient is critical to success. It accounts to 58% of performance in all types of jobs. The book provides a step-by-step program for increasing your EQ, especially for 4 core EQ skills that enable you to achieve your fullest potential: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. The book contains 66 simple practical exercises. These help you develop your emotional quotient. Here's some interesting statistics from the book. 90% of the high performers are also high in EQ. Middle managers have the highest EQ scores in the workforce, with CEOs with the lowest. American executives average 15 points lower than Chinese executives in self-management and relationship management. Emotional quotient of the US population increased from 13.7% with high EQ skills in 2003 to 18.3% in 2007. Interestingly, it declined in 2008, the beginning of the recession. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Joseph Fort Newton. We cannot tell what may happen to us in the strange medley of life, but we can decide what happened in us.
Hello, I'm Santosh Sirur. Today I want to summarize 2 movies on the topic coping with emotions. The first movie is a 1941 Disney movie named Dumbo. Here it goes. A flock of storks deliver babies to all mother animals in a circus in Florida. Mrs. Jumbo also has one, but it looks dumb because of its huge ears, hence the name of Dumbo. One day the circus manager locks Mrs. Jumbo because of her misbehavior, leaving Dumbo lonely. Now here what happens. Then Timothy, a small mouse, consoles him and vows to make Dumbo a star. Timothy finds out that the Dumbo's large ears are like wings, and that Dumbo can fly flapping his ears. This newfound ability, coupled with a boost of self-confidence, allows Dumbo to become a hero in the circus and to reunite with his mother. Now what do we learn from this movie? Firstly, we must not lose hope in ourselves. Our uniqueness always comes out one fine day. Secondly, when you have soulmates around, they help you in coping with your with your miseries. Now we move to the second movie, Inside Out, released in 2015. It's a story of Riley and how 5 of her emotions come to life. They influence her behavior using a control console. Sadness takes control when Riley moves to a new place with her father. Unknown town, local pizza parlor selling only broccoli toppings, old house, etc., etc., etc. makes sadness the boss of Riley's mind headquarters. Throughout the movie, we can see how emotions struggle with taking the lead to control Riley. This movie does a phenomenal job illustrating the emotional conflicts children can go through. As in real life, sadness is often misunderstood and disliked. This movie illustrates how other emotions do not see the value sadness has. By the end of the movie, Joy realizes how important sadness is and how sometimes we need to allow some sadness in order to experience some joy. Now what do we learn from this movie? Firstly, it's very important to teach children how to identify emotions. The children need to understand that all emotions are needed. Repressed emotions can contribute to mental health conditions. Secondly, emotions are a form of data. It's important to accurately convey them in a way that the recipient can accurately perceive. When we confront a provoking stimulus, the brain allows us to buy time to decide on flight versus flight. We must make use of this pause to design a win-win response. Let me end my talk with a quote from the 22-year-old The Voice star Christina Grimmett, and I quote, "Confidence is not they will like me. Confidence is I'll be fine if they don't." Thank you.
Hello, I'm Vidya Sirur. Today I want to share my learning from 2 mythological stories on the topic of coping with emotions. The first story from Greek mythology is about Achilles and his anger. Homer's epic Iliad is primarily about Achilles' wrath. Achilles was the bravest handsomest and greatest warrior of Agamemnon's army in the Trojan War. We see Achilles' first sign of wrath when he withdraws from the battle and refuses to fight. He withdraws because he is angry with Agamemnon, who had insulted him publicly. As a result, there is a massive loss of human life at the hands of the Trojan army. Achilles' second act of wrath is his killing of Hector, the Trojan hero. Achilles thereafter attaches the corpse to his chariot and drags it triumphantly around the walls of the city. He humiliates Troy by feeding Hector's body to dogs and scavenger birds. We learn from Achilles' story that negative emotions can poison all that is noble in you. Achilles' fury does not end even after he kills Hector. He calms down only after feeding Hector's body to the dogs and birds of prey. Your anger impacts everyone around you. It overshadows your good qualities. The second story from Hindu mythology is about Dhruv. King Uttanapad had two wives, Suruchi, who was Uttam's mother, and Suniti, who was Dhruv's mother. One day, Dhruv saw Uttam sitting on Uttanapad's lap. When the king took up Dhruva also on his lap, Suruchi severely abused the king and made Dhruv get down from his father's lap. This made Dhruv very sad. 6-year-old Dhruv left the palace with the resolve to find Lord Vishnu and get away from his sorrow. On the way, he met sage Narad, who guided him on how to please Vishnu. Dhruva, following Narad's guidance, obtained Lord Vishnu's blessings. Vishnu gave Dhruv a place in the firmament from which no one could ever move him. This is the story of Dhruv Tara, or the pole star. Whenever you face emotional turmoil, you have to trust that this has happened to you for a higher purpose. This opens up new possibilities. Let me end this chapter with a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. For every minute you remain angry, you give up 60 seconds of peace of mind.
We hope that our efforts have helped you understand the basics of coping with emotions. A regular listening to this audio will be our reward. Thank you.